welcome back to Light from Mars. I am coming back at you guys with another mystery video. I'm very excited to dive in because today we are going to be talking about a tweet that was put out by the actual president of Mexico, seemingly confirming his beliefs in this ancient mythical being, this fairy goblin elf-like creature that is said to have existed in Mexico since before humans. There is so much lore surrounding these creatures, their history, people's experiences with them to this day, and we are going to break it all down and why it is just so insane that he is so casually suggesting that these are in fact real. But before we dive into that, I just want to say that if you are not already subscribed, please make sure that you hit that subscribe button. If you have never been here before, my name is Marissa, this is my channel Light from Mars, and I make videos about all things mysterious and magical. So if you are into that kind of thing, you should definitely consider it, please. Thank you. Alright, so let's get into this topic, guys. So, like I said, the president of Mexico, he put out this tweet. Now, I'm going to put the tweet on the screen so that you guys can see it. And first of all, jump scare. As you can see here, I'll kind of zoom in so you guys can see as we go through the tweet. But it is a block of text, obviously in Spanish. This is the president of Mexico. You know, context clues. And two photos that he posted with this tweet. Now, in this tweet, he is essentially saying that this photo here on the left was taken by an engineer, okay? They're working on some kind of building project. As far as I can understand, it's some kind of railway this engineer potentially was working on in the Mexican countryside. And assumingly he saw this creature late at night in this tree, and this is the photo that he captured. Now on the right is a picture of an elux, okay? Now the elux is of course this ancient mythical creature that we are going to dive fully into, but essentially what the president is saying in this tweet, he's saying that, you know, the first photo was taken by this engineer only 3 days before he posted this tweet, and this other photo is a photo of the elux, and he's saying, like, you know, it's the same thing, and he ends the tweet by saying everything is mystical, okay? So this is just insane, especially when you consider the fact that the eluses are only one of the alleged supernatural creatures that exist in Mexico. There are so many different myths and so many different cryptid-like creatures that are said to exist in this area that people to this day believe in. But it is still obviously shocking to see someone like a head of state on his actual official Twitter account tweet something like this completely unprovoked, and he was also not joking. I gotta say, I'm kind of all for this, low-key, you know? I want the presidents to be real with us and just be like, yeah, you know, the supernatural creatures, they're real, duh. But unfortunately, I'm not sure we're gonna get any of the other world leaders to get on that bandwagon quite yet, but we'll see. I mean, the president of Mexico is step one. So the legend of the Eluses dates back to ancient Mayan civilization, which for those of you who don't know, the Mayans were a very large and extensive network of indigenous peoples that existed in Mexico and Central America pre-colonialism. Now, of course, the Mayans had all sorts of different beliefs, but essentially the Eluses were believed to be nature spirits. The Mayans believed that the Eluses were small, mischievous spirits that existed in nature, like in the forests and in the mountains. These spirits were said to have been overall pretty friendly with humans, but could also be unpredictable and potentially cause mischief if they felt neglected or disrespected. And like I said, they believed that these Eluses were older than the Mayan people themselves, and they even said that they were the ones who built the big cities, that the Eluses were the ones that built the big Mayan cities. And one of the main beliefs surrounding Eluses is that they come alive at night, that they work very quickly, and then when the sun comes out, they turn to stone, which is why they are depicted, as the Mexican president tweeted, as these stone fixtures. Now, apparently, Eluses can choose whether you see them or not, so sometimes they could be there, but you just don't see them. But when people do see them, they're said to be no taller than 2 feet. They have pointed ears, and they have red or green eyes. They are also usually dressed in some kind of traditional Mayan clothing. And obviously, yes, they are most known for being very playful and for often pulling little pranks on humans, like taking things or, hiding things or taking food and things like that. I have to say that the Eluxes remind me heavily of like a fairy type creature. I want to do a whole video on just the lore of fairies, but I feel like the Eluxes have to be some type of fairy because you see these exact descriptions of these similar like creatures all around the world. So I kind of feel like the Elux could be looked at as like the Mexican fairy. And in Mexican folklore, the Eluxes are viewed as protectors of nature and of the Mayan ruins. And so, of course, as the guardians of the natural world, these Eluxes were said to exist in areas like forests, mountains, like I said, also rivers, caves, cenotes, especially in the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico. This is one region of Mexico, one state in Mexico called Yucatan, and this is where specifically the Mayan civilization was kind of concentrated, and also where there was said to be the most Eluxes. So there was also said to be a lot of Eluxes in the caves and cenotes in this region, because if you did not know, this is actually the area of the world where the meteor was said to have hit that destroyed the dinosaurs, and this meteor created literally thousands and thousands of caves in this area. So there's so many caves in this region, and there's also these things called cenotes, which are basically kind of like underwater lakes/rivers that are kind of cavern-like or cave-like. It's basically just like a sinkhole or a cave that's filled with water. So there's also said to be a lot of Eluxes that exist in these kind of areas. And the Eluxes were not just known to be little pranksters, they actually had powers. They were said to be able to control the weather, to protect crops and to affect crops, and even have healing powers. And they are basically said to be able to bring good or bad fortune upon humans depending upon their treatment. So obviously for this reason, they were very revered by the people, and in some instances they really did want to work with the Eluxes. According to legend, Eluxes can be summoned by placing a small Elux statue in some kind of natural area, like the forest, like the river, like somewhere on your property, whatever it is, just some kind of like major natural area, maybe a big tree, something like that. And you place this statue along with the house. You have to build some kind of home for the Elux, and then you give it offerings. You give it food, you give it tobacco, wine, money, whatever you want. You have to give the Elux some kind of offering in order for it to even consider working with you. So if you want to summon an Elux, and I'm not saying that you should, that is how you would do it. Again, not unlike how you would summon a fairy-like creature. Now, obviously, going back to the Mexican president tweeting about this and this engineer supposedly seeing this Elux, let's talk about some of the more modern sightings, because it is actually kind of more common than you would think. To this day, people still say that they are having interactions with these Eluxes. In 1993, researchers and workers for the National Institute of Anthropology performed what would later be quoted by big media as a strange ceremony to ask the Mayan gods for permission to do their work at Chichen Itza. Now, Chichen Itza is a very ancient, very sacred Mayan site. It is a large pyramid that is located in the Yucatan Peninsula, the same area. And although they were criticized, they reported that they did this because they wanted to protect themselves from the wrath of the Eluxes. Eluxes are also known to protect cornfields, plantations, and properties, so farmers often summon Eluxes to help them as well. They are known to often perform special rituals in order to gain their favor. In order to do this, the farmer brings in a shaman, who then mixes mud from the land and the farmer's own blood in order to create a bond between them and the Eluxes. This process takes 7 weeks, and once it's over, the shaman places a small statue of the Elux strategically in the farmer's land. The shaman offers the name of their new master, the farmer, to the Elux, and is said to bring them alive through offerings and prayers. And from there on, the Elux will be the guardian of the property, so long as they keep respecting and giving offerings, of course. If their master is to die, it is said that the Eluxes will then be at service of the god of corn, known as Yumkax. I hope I said that right, but Possibly not. If the property becomes occupied by a new owner, the Eluses are said to become disruptive and mischievous until the new owner submits and gives them offerings until the Eluses eventually accept them. But like I said, Eluses are said to be able to help with more than just farming. One story tells of a mother in a small Mayan village whose child went missing. She was searching for the child desperately and eventually decided to place a small statue of an elux in the forest, adorning it with food and gifts and tobacco, hoping that somehow it could help her find her child. And it is said that she woke up that very next morning with her child untouched, laying in bed beside her. But along with the help they provide, like I said, aluxes are also known to be troublemakers. They often play pranks on people who are in their territories, and in some cases they can be truly terrifying. They are said to be able to produce small screams, strong whirlpools, and other strange phenomena when they get angry. And for this reason, some do consider aluxes to be allies to evil and kind of like evil entities. And in fact, even farmers are reluctant to work with aluxes because it is said that working with an elux, you will get 7 years of good fortune and good harvest. But after those initial 7 years, there is a possibility that the elux will take you to its original master, the god of the underworld, otherwise known as Chibalba. And yes, in some cases, people do purposely kind of invoke and summon these eluxes, but in a lot of cases, they just already are said to exist in places, and people end up having to deal with them because they move into their areas. There's another really well-known story of a bridge that was attempting to be constructed. So they were attempting to build this bridge over and over and over, and they had already tried 3 different times to build this bridge, but they just kept coming up with all of these problems and issues, and it was like a disaster. And allegedly during this building process, a Mayan ended up coming up to the workers at the bridge, and he told them that this was all happening because the Eluxes were angry, that this bridge was going over the territory of the Eluxes, and they were upset that they were not being addressed. And he told them they will continue to wreak havoc unless you build them a shelter and give them some offerings. And after this, the company called in a Mayan shaman who built them a house, who gave them offerings and prayers and all of these things. And they created a pact with the Eluxes to be able to continue construction. And shockingly, what do you know? After this, they were able to build the bridge with no more issues. And even beyond just that, there are major hotels that have shrines to Eluxes, so many different businesses and properties that have these shrines to these Eluxes because people genuinely do believe that they have these impacts on, reality and the circumstance and their fortune in general in life. And just so you guys know, Eluxes are also said to be able to stop travelers, and that if they are not given an offering by the travelers, they can also give you ill fortune or even illnesses. However, if you do provide an offering to the Elux, they will bring you good luck and also protection. So just saying, maybe it doesn't hurt to, leave a little something the next time you're in the Mexican nature side or at a major Mexican site, especially in the Yucatan Peninsula. And I actually want to tell you guys a really interesting story that I personally had with Eluxes. So I have been to this area of Playa del Carmen, Tulum, Cancun many times, and I actually went there once for my birthday. Now, for my birthday dinner, I was with some friends, we decided that we wanted to go to like a cool, unique restaurant. And we found this restaurant called Alux, okay? And it was actually a restaurant that's built into a cave. Now, it is a beautiful restaurant. It's such a cool concept. And we were like, this is amazing. And of course, we ended up finding out, this was before I knew anything about Eluxes in general, that it was named Alux because it was said that Eluxes were said to exist in this cave, okay? Now, so when we went to this restaurant, it was super cool. It was so dope. It was such a vibe, And we decided to walk around once our dinner was over, and we went back into this kind of like private area where there was no tables. Well, there was a table, but it was weird. It was like just not like an altar, because there was an altar, but it was kind of like a private table, I guess you could say, but almost like a meeting table, and it was dark. It looked like, I don't even know, honestly, it was kind of giving like cult or like secret society energy. Like, it was kind of intense, okay? But we go back there, and like the energy there, It was crazy, okay? Where the actual shrines to the Eluses were, I was just like, I think they were onto something when they said there was probably Eluses here. I think that there is Eluses here. And it was just such a strange vibe. And I remember leaving an offering, and I remember thinking, should I have done that? Because I don't know, like I had heard previously, that you're not supposed to say thank you to them, because if you say thank you, then you owe them. And so I was really careful not to say thank you, but I was like, what if I leave an offering and it's kind of like the same thing of like, oh, well, now I'm working with them or whatever. Because you gotta be careful with that, you know, like I don't want to make any deals with any aluxes if I don't know exactly what the trade is gonna be, okay? So yeah, like I just remember being, you know, thinking, I think that these creatures definitely do exist. In the very least, there's some intense energy in here. You could feel it. Like, it was crazy, okay? So, going back to this, all of this in mind, this is what these creatures are. They're these Mexican fairy creatures who are said to still exist, still have this big impact on society and people's everyday lives and like the fortune of, you know, their lives and of the fortune of the farms and all of these things. And so it is actually pretty deeply rooted in Mexican culture. But of course, this still is pretty much regarded by most people as just folklore, as is, you know, most of these kind of supernatural paranormal entities. But I would be very curious to hear what you guys think about this. Why do you think that the Mexican president would tweet about this? I mean, he got trolled so hard. People were laughing at him. People were making fun of him and like kind of degrading him, you know, and like obviously it was kind of like sensationalized, just like, wow, okay, you know, you're talking about this, chill, bro. You know, they kind of used it as an opportunity to make fun of him and to discredit him. But I don't know, is it really that far-fetched that these entities could exist? I mean, for me, I think that it's definitely possible. You know, the more that I learn about all of the different spirits that are said to exist across the world, and the more evidence I see for all these creatures, and like I said, especially with the Eluses, you cannot deny the similarities between Eluses and fairies, and the fact that these fairies, or the fae creatures, are spotted all around the world, I don't think it's just coincidence. So personally, I'm in support of the Mexican president. I, like I said, am all here for the world leaders and for the people in power and the people with a voice talking about these kinds of things and demystifying them. And I will say that this Elux in that one picture, it looks pretty scary. And also I want to say that it looks kind of large. Now, I don't know if that's just the proportion, because like I said, Eluxes are said to be like 2 feet tall. So is this really an Elux? Is it something else? I don't know. What do you guys think? Have you had any experiences with Eluses? Do you have any particular, like, you know, history with them? Oh, and one more thing, I should mention this. It is said that saying their name, saying the word Elux, is said to also kind of like manifest them. So just saying, if you're in Mexico, maybe don't say Elux unless you're really trying to mess with that. But that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Please do not forget to give this video a like, let me know what you thought in the comments, and subscribe if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more fun ones in the future. So thank you so much for watching. I love you guys so much. I really appreciate it, and I will see you on the next one. Bye!